I was abandoned by my family due to my golden sister's success. Now she's begging for help as the family business falls apart. Hello Reddit, I'm 32F, and I never imagined I'd be sharing my entire life online, but here I am. My world has been completely upended in a way I never expected. My parents expelled me from the house. And why? Because I managed to pay for my MBA without their invaluable assistance. And my sister, 36F, the golden child, couldn't tolerate it. Although this is a lengthy story, I need to share it, and perhaps you can offer guidance, or at least a virtual shoulder to lean on. Let me explain the dynamics of my family. I've always been the underdog, the last in line, the one who never quite fit in. It was obvious from the start that my sister was the favorite. Growing up in a suburban community just outside Chicago, my parents would throw a mini parade whenever she got an A. "Oh cool, what's for dinner?" they'd say. If I got an A, my mother's response was more like, "That's nice, dear. Have you seen Sarah's graduation pictures? Wasn't she beautiful?" Sarah was always the center of attention, naturally talented, attractive, and charismatic. She effortlessly excelled in school plays, captained sports teams, and earned perfect grades. I was the awkward, bookish kid who preferred coding alone in my room to being in the spotlight. My parents were enamored with Sarah as if she were a prodigy. When she enrolled in a prestigious business school, they covered everything: tuition, fashionable clothes, a fancy apartment, even trips to Cancun over spring break. They boasted endlessly to anyone who would listen about their successful daughter. I kept my head down, assuming I had to handle things alone. Despite working part-time jobs and taking out loans during college, I still graduated with honors in computer science. Was there a celebration for me? No. My mother merely compared me to Sarah's achievements. For the past few years, I've been managing projects at a digital company. The job pays the bills and is decent, but I aspire to more, perhaps launching my own business, advancing in my career, or entering top management. I decided to apply to a respected MBA program, but the tuition was extremely high. 6 figures. I hoped my parents might support me as they had Sarah. One evening after a family supper, I approached them. To my astonishment, the conversation centered on Sarah's latest achievement at the family restaurant. I outlined my strategy, explained how the MBA would advance my career, and tactfully brought up tuition. The expressions on their faces suggested I had asked them to sell their kidneys. They outright told me they couldn't pay. Fine. I understood MBAs are expensive, but they wouldn't even co-sign a loan. That infuriated me. I only wanted their help to avoid drowning in debt, not to have them pay everything. Their logic: "We've already covered Sarah's tuition. Now it's time to consider our future," they said. Even worse, they planned to grow the family restaurant, investing all their savings. I was stunned. They could afford Sarah's entire education, but couldn't co-sign a loan for me. Trying to stay calm, I asked, "Well, honey, Sarah's education was an investment in the family business." My mother boldly replied, "You have an MBA, that's only for you, isn't it?" Only for you, as if I weren't part of the family, as if my success didn't matter to them. I was at a loss. My parents seemed determined to create unnecessary obstacles. I didn't want to miss this opportunity, so I turned to my Aunt Margaret. She is very different from my parents. Far more successful than either, and works as a neurosurgeon. She's always been kind to me, and grounded. There's always been tension between her and my parents at family gatherings. They pretended to be courteous, but I could sense their resentment toward her success, especially my dad, who hated feeling overshadowed by her. I remember overhearing him accuse Aunt Margaret of various things when I was younger. Being conceited and intent on defaming him, at first I wasn't particularly interested in involving Aunt Margaret, but I was desperate. One day, I reached out to see if she could help with the tuition. I explained the situation, my parents' refusal to assist, and the significance of this MBA to me. Aunt Margaret didn't hesitate. "Of course I'll help," she said. "Why didn't you approach me earlier? It would be an honor to invest in your future. I've always believed you have a lot of promise." I felt immense gratitude, but I was also afraid. My dad would go crazy if he discovered I had asked his sister for money behind his back. To keep it a secret, I pleaded with Aunt Margaret, recognizing the complicated family dynamics at play. She agreed. For a while, everything went smoothly. My tuition was paid, and I was preparing to begin my MBA. I felt anxious but optimistic about the future, finally sensing a small victory. Then Sarah decided to ruin everything. I'm still not sure how she discovered I had sought Aunt Margaret's help. Perhaps she snooped through my emails when I wasn't looking. Or maybe she overheard a call. Whatever the method, she found out. True to her role as the golden child, she couldn't ignore it. She had to turn it into a grand theatrical spectacle. After a long day at work, I came home excited to share news about my upcoming MBA orientation. But the moment I entered, I sensed something was wrong. The house was eerily silent, heavy with tension. My heart sank as I walked into the living room. Everything I owned, books, clothes, bedding, was packed into boxes. It felt as though the house itself was erasing me. Sarah stood off to the side with a smug, self-satisfied expression, while my parents sat on the couch, their faces a mix of disappointment and rage. It felt like a perverse intervention. My father wasted no time. "Explain this," he demanded, tossing a pile of papers at me. I picked up the papers with trembling hands, unable to understand a word. Then it became clear. Sarah had completely lost it. She had fabricated emails between Aunt Margaret and me, making it appear as though I had betrayed the family. The emails suggested I had shared trade secrets of our family restaurant in exchange for tuition coverage, recipes, supplier details, even finances. I had no access to these things, but Sarah made it look convincing. After going through my laptop, Sarah had altered several emails using Photoshop or some other program, painting me as a traitor. I was stunned. "This isn't real," I stammered. "These emails are fraudulent. I would never do this." My parents didn't even listen. My mother cried, while my father, red-faced and furious, said, "We trusted you, and you stabbed us in the back." They believed Sarah without question. It felt as though I had vanished, and all the years I had spent being a good daughter, working hard, and avoiding trouble, were meaningless. I realized then that I would always be second best in their eyes. They would always doubt me. "You must go," my father said in a chilly tone. "We won't have a traitor in this house." I pleaded with them to reconsider, trying to clarify that the MBA was solely for me, and that Aunt Margaret's support was similar to what they had provided Sarah. My parents didn't care. I also didn't want to burden Aunt Margaret, who had already promised to cover my tuition. They labeled me a traitor and refused to interact with me. Labeled me a traitor and refused to interact with me. Sarah stood silently the entire time, her arrogant expression unchanged, her eyes saying more than words could. She had won. The sister she always saw as a rival was finally gone. The sister she always saw as a rival was finally gone. I left with only a few boxes of belongings, and the clothes on my back. As I loaded my car, I noticed neighbors watching from their windows, presumably curious about the drama. I felt utterly alone, deceived and humiliated. Once in the car, I called Aunt Margaret, crying so hard I could barely speak. I didn't even have to ask questions. She told me to come to her apartment immediately. Without her, I'm not sure how I would have managed. I am currently staying at Aunt Margaret's home, with her generous offer of a place to live, and her continued assurance that she wants to support my MBA. She has been an incredible support system. Nevertheless, I vividly remember that night. Sarah standing there with that arrogant expression, knowing she had won, my parents glaring at me like I was a criminal, and all of my belongings packed away. When I walked into my house, I felt utterly lost. I don't know what to do. Reddit. Part of me wants to defend myself, to show that Sarah was lying. If I looked closely, I could probably find proof that the emails were forged. Yet, another part of me wants to sever all ties and never look back. For those eager to assume the worst of me, why should I even fight? How can I possibly comprehend this betrayal? Knowing my own family has abandoned me. How do I go on? In a few weeks, the MBA program will begin. And I should be excited, but instead, I'm grappling with emotional trauma. I keep replaying everything in my mind, wondering if I missed any clues. Was Sarah always this cunning? Were my parents always this eager to discard me? After this, how can I ever trust anyone again? Aunt Margaret advises me to focus on the opportunities my MBA will create for my future. Though it's difficult to see past the hurt and anger in the moment, she insists that achievement is the best form of retaliation. I would greatly appreciate guidance. How do I rebuild my life, knowing my own sister would go to such lengths to harm me? How do I cope when I feel so damaged inside? How do I interact with my MBA instructors and classmates when I feel like I'm drowning? Reddit, I need a lifeline. It's been a long time, 3 years, to be precise, since I last wrote about my family throwing me out, and much has happened. I want to share my progress. I began by completing my MBA program, which had a profound impact on me. When I started, I was in a mental upheaval, but I channeled that energy into my studies. I graduated at the top of my class, but it wasn't easy. The girl who constantly felt inferior is gone. She's been rar. She's been rar. Replaced by a woman confident in her abilities, unafraid to express them. I now have a job at a prestigious consulting firm. I love my work, though it's challenging. For the first time, my diligence and abilities are truly valued. I no longer live in anyone's shadow. Throughout all this, Aunt Margaret has been a rock, becoming the loving family I never had. It's not just a place to stay. We discuss everything, from her most intriguing medical cases to my latest professional endeavors during our weekly dinners. I've learned so much from her about defending my rights and valuing myself. 3 years of radio silence from Sarah and my parents, no emails, texts, or calls. It was painful at first, but over time I realized their absence allowed me to grow in ways I couldn't have while living with them. I've built a proud life, free from the need for approval or constant comparison. Yet life is unpredictable. Last Saturday, just when I thought I had everything sorted, Sarah showed up at my door. I almost didn't recognize her. The air of superiority and the fancy attire were gone. She wore a basic sweater and jeans that had seen better days, with dark circles under her eyes and hair hastily pulled up. She looked discouraged. "Hey," she said softly. "Can we talk?" Curiosity overcame me. I wanted to slam the door, but I opened it. Sarah sat uncomfortably, fidgeting on the couch. "I need your help," she blurted out. "The family firm is having serious problems." She explained that the family business was close to bankruptcy. Our parents' much anticipated expansion had failed, leaving them drowning in debt after overextending and taking out large loans. When Sarah said, "Dad's talking about filing for bankruptcy," her voice broke. "Mom is in disarray, and I'm at a loss. Despite my best efforts, I can't fix this." I felt a mix of emotions, an almost sick sense of satisfaction, thinking this was retribution for how they had treated me, but also a twinge of unease. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "What do you expect me to do?" Sarah's eyes were desperate as she looked at me. "You're doing fantastically with your MBA and your work. I was hoping you might be able to offer guidance, or..." I understood what she meant, even though she didn't finish the sentence. She wanted money, the black sheep being rescued by the golden child. The irony was almost unbearable. I said, maintaining a calm voice, "Let me get this straight. After everything that happened, after 3 years of silence, you show up asking for help." Sarah appeared genuinely embarrassed. "I know I messed up," she said quietly. I felt envious. She had always been so capable and intelligent. I lost it when I learned that Aunt Margaret was assisting you," she admitted. "I apologize." After 3 years, all she could offer was an apology. It felt dreadfully insufficient. "Sorry doesn't cut it, Sarah," I responded. "You have no idea what I've been through because of what you did." "I know," she said, her eyes welling with tears. "But we're still related. Aren't we? Family members support one another. Just give it some thought, please." The word family struck me hard. After everything that had happened, were we really still related? I told Sarah I needed time to reflect. With a disappointed expression, she left her number and went on her way. Now I sit here, trying to decide what to do. On one hand, I've poured immense effort into creating this new life. The familial drama, incessant comparisons, and feelings of inadequacy have finally faded. Is it really my intention to become entangled in all of it again? Yet a small part of me still cares. I feel something when I think of my parents' bankruptcies, not quite pity, but not indifference either. Another part sees this as an opportunity to show them what they lost when they rejected me, to prove definitively that I am not the failure they always believed me to be. But is it worth it? After how they treated me, do I owe them anything? Would anything truly change if I helped? Regardless of what I do, would I always be the second best daughter? Reddit. I'm conflicted. How would you respond? Should I defend myself and let my family face their own problems? Or should I step in and risk being hurt again? I've been pondering this for days, but I'm still unsure. Part of me wants to step up, offer help, and pull them out of this mess. It might even allow us to rebuild our relationship on more equal terms. Another part screams to walk away. I'm still healing from the profound damage they caused. Would I truly want to risk that suffering again? Aunt Margaret and I have discussed this. As always, She has been encouraging, promising to support me, no matter what. Yet she also cautioned me, sometimes helping others means sacrificing yourself. Make sure you're not setting yourself on fire to keep them warm, she said. I've been distracted lately, and my coworkers have noticed. Some have listened sympathetically, though I haven't shared the specifics. One remarked, sometimes the most professional thing you can do is keep your personal life separate from your work. That statement has stayed with me. The MBA courses on crisis management and corporate turnarounds linger in my mind. I could likely help them, but should I? Am I accountable? Are Sarah's apologies sufficient? Is this just another ploy, or does she truly feel remorse? I'm also concerned about the potential impact on my personal financial security. Although I'm doing well now, I'm not making a fortune, and assisting them could jeopardize my future ambitions. One thing is certain, this time, whatever I decide will be on my terms. I have changed from the insecure, terrified girl I once was. No matter what happens with my family, I will remain a strong, accomplished woman who recognizes her worth. What do you think, Reddit? Should I prioritize my own well-being and let my family deal with the consequences of their choices, or should I step in to help? I would greatly appreciate an independent perspective. Update 2. It's me again, Reddit. Things have taken a crazy turn since my previous update, and I can't believe I'm back so soon. Do you recall how I debated whether or not to assist my family with their restaurant problems? The universe, however, had another surprise in store. A week after Sarah's visit, my parents showed up at my workplace. Yes, my office. They appeared in the lobby one afternoon, having somehow figured out where I work. Talk about a systemic shock. My assistant buzzed me while I was in the middle of a meeting to say 2 people were requesting to see me. My heart almost stopped. Feeling as if I were walking to my own death, I excused myself and made my way to the lobby. There they were, looking older and more worn out than I remembered. They looked far older than I had remembered. Dad's shoulders were hunched in a way I had never seen before, and Mom's hair had turned completely gray. The weight of 3 years of silence hung between us as we simply stared at one another. After a long pause, Dad finally spoke. "We need to talk," he said, his voice rough yet oddly diminished. I suggested a nearby coffee shop, not wanting to have this discussion at work. An uneasy hush settled over us as we sat down with our beverages. Determined not to make things easy, I waited for them to speak. Mom was the first to break the silence. "We were wrong," she said shakily. "We should never have expelled you. We should have paid attention to you. We should have paid attention to you. We sincerely apologize. Over the past 3 years. See, I had dreamed of this moment countless times, but now that it was happening, I felt nothing. No relief, no joy, not even rage, only a hollow emptiness." Dad added, "You should return home. We can overcome this difficult period as a family." I took a sip of coffee to give myself some time. "Why now?" I finally asked. Why after 3 years of silence? They exchanged glances, and I realized there was more to the story. Their desperation became clear as they began to explain. The restaurant was not just struggling financially. It was a total failure. In addition to overextending themselves with the expansion, they had been taking shortcuts and breaking the law to stay afloat, including tax evasion, health code violations, and questionable supplier transactions. They now faced potential criminal penalties alongside bankruptcy. Dad's voice dropped to a whisper. "We need your help. Your business knowledge, your connections. You could save us." Stunned, I sat there. My parents, who had dismissed me on false pretenses and always considered me second best, now saw me as their only hope. "Let me get this straight," I said, struggling to maintain composure. "You kicked me out, believed the worst of me without proof. Didn't contact me for 3 years, and now you want me to bail you out of your illegal activities." Mom reached across the table to grasp my hand. I recoiled, tears welling in my eyes. She continued. "We know we don't deserve your help, but we are family. We are at a loss on what to do. So please, family." The word hit me hard. Observing them, I realized they were no longer members of my family. Aunt Margaret, a true family member, had given me unwavering support. My family now consisted of the friends I had made at work and in my MBA program, people who respected me for who I was. I inhaled deeply. "I'm sorry," I said, surprised at how composed I felt. "But I am unable to assist you." "What you're asking? Money isn't the only factor. You're asking me to sacrifice everything I'd worked for." including my job and my principles. I'm not capable of doing that. Their shocked expressions were almost comical. They clearly didn't expect me to say no. Anger colored Dad's face. After everything we've done for you, I interrupted. What have you done for me? Denying support for my education, while paying for Sarah's to excluding me on false pretenses. Excluding me on false pretenses. Favoring her throughout my life? Mom cried aloud. Please, we'll lose everything. A pang of guilt struck me, but I reflected on the past 3 years. The hardships, the suffering, and the growth and accomplishments I had achieved on my own. I stood up. I'm sorry you're in this situation, I said, but these are the results of your own actions. I cannot save you. You will be ruined. Is that your preference? Dad yelled as I turned to leave. I stopped and faced them. I want you to accept responsibility for your actions. I said. I want you to understand what you lost when you threw me out. What I really want is to be free of your drama and manipulation. I left my parents behind and exited the coffee shop. A weight had lifted. I had chosen myself, set my boundaries, and confronted them. But the story didn't end there. After much thought, I realized that simply leaving was not enough. My parents' actions were illegal, and if left unchecked, others could be harmed. I made a difficult decision. I reported the restaurant's unlawful operations to the appropriate authorities, including the police, the IRS, and the health department. Though I knew it was the right decision, it was far from easy. The consequences were severe and swift. Screaming and sobbing, Sarah called me, accusing me of ruining the family. I don't know what justificates my parents believed they had, but in their voicemails they alternated between pleading for help and threatening legal action. I didn't back down. I informed the authorities of everything I knew and made it clear that I was not involved in any unlawful activity. Aunt Margaret stood by me during those difficult weeks, reassuring me that I was acting lightly. While the inquiry is still ongoing, the eatery has reportedly been closed while a thorough audit is conducted. Sarah and my parents are now facing serious legal consequences. Although it isn't a joyous conclusion, it is a just one. As for me, I'm doing well. Actually, better than well. There's a sense of closure. The toxic family dynamics that once held me back have been broken. I have a successful career and have even been approached about a potential promotion. I feel as though I've found a true professional home, thanks to the support of my coworkers throughout this process. I've never been closer to Aunt Margaret, and once things calm down, we're planning a trip together, giving us something to look forward to. I won't pretend it's been easy. There are times when I question whether I made the right choice and feel guilt. However, when I reflect on the years of suffering, manipulation, and favoritism they inflicted, I know I made the correct decision. 3 years ago, I was confused and alone after being evicted from my house. Now, I am independent, prosperous in my work, surrounded by people who genuinely care about me, and finally free from my family's poisonous influence. Some may have wished for a joyful family reunion, but this is my story. And I am proud of the progress I've made. Remember this: if you are struggling with toxic family members, making tough choices is okay. You have the right to prioritize your own health. You are entitled to set boundaries. And sometimes, the family you choose matters more than the one you were born into. I deeply appreciate Reddit's support along this journey. You have no idea how much your guidance and encouragement have meant. Here's to fresh starts and creating our own happiness. Thank you for reading, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.